He's Andrew Marchand, the Athletic senior sports media columnist, and he's got a podcast, twice weekly podcast, and it's andrewmarchand.com to learn more about covering this goofy business we call sports media. All right. If you're going to give Tom Brady a grade, what would the grade be with his debut yesterday?
I go C plus, probably. Now, it depends how you want to look at it. If you're just grading him as a number one analyst, $375 million, and that's the level, then it's lower because it wasn't great. But the way I look at it is you have to give a little bit of a curve here for his first game. It's a learning experience. He's never done it, a lot of rehearsals, but never done it live. And then when we get to the Super Bowl, when I do my Super Bowl column after that, there's no curve. That's where if you sound like a rookie during the Super Bowl, you're probably not going to put the column I write the next day on your refrigerator.
And he is so well known, and we've heard from him, we've seen him, it's, 20 years plus, whereas Greg Olsen, people didn't know what Greg Olsen sounded like. We know Brady and how he sounds, and it just felt like Tom was trying to be too perfect instead of, like, he's got to understand TV. And it's not football. He knows that, but understanding how to incorporate his football knowledge into 15 seconds, that's the tricky part. That separates, the good from the great.
Yeah, can he just be kind of a dude watching the game? I think when you look at Romo, got out of the gate really fast. That was the reason why, because he was really relaxed on the air. And you could tell Brady was sort of thinking a lot. It seemed pretty obvious Micah Parsons was going to be a point of emphasis for him. He kept circling him and then kind of stopping his thought. His syntax was stilted. And so you got to get to a point where you're just relaxed. I mean, he's lucky to have Kevin Burkhardt, who's a guy who wants to make his analysts better. So he's going to set him up and try to, have him be successful. But it's comfort. Because it's different. And I think the one thing that I think was a little bit of a red flag, if I'm Fox, is that the set pieces that he did first on Saturday during the college football game, Texas, Michigan, and then in the pregame, they weren't great. And those are the ones where this, Dan, it's very set up, right? You can plan what you're going to say, and what he said just wasn't detailed enough. It wasn't specific enough. It sounded more like a player as opposed to an analyst. And that's where, he can mature in this job, but that's a little bit to me like, ooh, is it there? Like, I'm not saying it's not. I personally think he's going to probably grow in this job, but that was a little bit of a red flag.
Well, for 20 years, he went to press conferences trying not to tell you something. Now you have to tell me something. Now he has to act like he's quarterbacking. He's got to see the game that way. That's what we want from him. Now, I'm not saying go Romo, but I'm saying you got to be somewhere in the vicinity or the neighborhood of, I'm excited about this. Oh, there's nothing wrong with off mic saying something if Kevin Burkhardt's making a call. Like, be excited. Be in the moment. Because when he played the position, he was excited. He's got to be more like on his toes, like into it, instead of waiting, for something to happen. You can hear his producer in his ear a couple of times where there has to be a little bit more synchronicity there with his thoughts. Get him out. Say something. Don't try to be perfect.
I agree, but it's also comfort level because I think a lot of times what's lost, especially in a situation like Brady, where there could be all kinds of stories. He clearly did this because the check was so large, right? And he'd said on the record that he's no interest in doing this. They offered him $375 million for 10 years. He did it. It's Tom Brady. It is a big deal. And if he's good, it will be additive. That said, guys like Tom Brady don't dream about calling the Super Bowl. They dream about winning the Super Bowl. So they watch games differently than you and I, where we kind of pay attention to the announcers. The announcers are always trending on social media, especially X. Guys like him, generally speaking, and I'm not saying it's possible that he does. He mentioned Johnny Miller during his podcast. That was somebody he thought he might be like. He was nothing like Johnny Miller yesterday. But that's something you have to learn. And if you're not comfortable doing that, and you're not comfortable, when do I get in? When do I get out? Which they've practiced. And Fox has already shown that they know how to teach a player off the field to be good with Greg Olsen. But it got to be instinctive. It can't be like, oh, I'm supposed to do this. Yeah. It's too fast to do that.
All right. DirecTV, ESPN, summarize the situation and any hope on the horizon.
I mean, I think tonight's the big night, Monday Night Football. That's Jets, San Francisco, and DirecTV. If you're going to do a deal, you do it before Monday Night Football, because there's going to be this is where people really start to get rid of your service, and so. I mean, this is where we're going. I think ultimately it gets settled, and ultimately DirecTV does get what it wants in terms of what it wants to do is sell what they call skinny bundles, which is, smaller packages. Forever ESPN's been on basic cable, and it was worth the most, and the bundle actually was better than people thought, dating back for a long time. But now they want to be able to offer just here's sports, here's entertainment. And Disney, of course, wants just to be on basic, be on every cable. But for DirecTV, and their thoughts, for them to survive, they got to be able to compete with the Netflixes and with ESPN going direct to consumer next year. And then if they can start their new service, Venue Sports, which is with Fox Sports and Warner Brothers Discovery, TNT Sports. So that's what's, I think ultimately they get their number. The number stays high for their affiliates, and then DirecTV is allowed to do these smaller services.
Talking to Andrew Marchand, the Athletic senior sports media columnist. I brought this up when I realized that the NFL was going to push for 18 games, that I could see the commissioner taking those 18, those extra games, and they're all international. So you're telling, these teams you're going to get X number of home games and then try to set up shop around the world. We're going to go global here. Rich Eisen said this on his show. He could see the international games being sold separately as a package deal. Are we headed in that direction, in your opinion?
I mean, it's really kind of be amazing if the NFL was like really greedy and went for more money. I mean, that'd be like a kind of a new thing. I guess it's possible. They have $110 billion worth of agreements already with the major networks and Amazon. So yeah, like they'll sell some. I always say this: the NFL is the best at selling you a pizza and then saying, "Oh, you know what? There's a little clause in here that half-eaten pizza that you have, we're going to sell it to somebody else now for a couple of more billion." So the idea of that happening seems very plausible to me.
Any other sports media topics that we should be aware of?
I think NFL, we got the Netflix coming up during Christmas is an interesting story to watch. And the NBA deal that just went down. I think when you look at what the future of media is, I think there's something that's misunderstood by the general public, in my opinion. This is what it's going to be in terms of live sports. This is where your sports are going to be on, because the only real big deal that's coming up, NFL could sell, like you just said, like a sliver of deals, but basically this is what's going to be until 29 when they can opt out, and then their contracts go for 11 years if they don't opt out. Is that the NBA just got done, UFC's out there, but this is where Amazon is the new player. If you want to talk about who's going to fight ESPN for the future of, of being the most dominant, it's probably Amazon. They already have NBA, they already have NFL. They're trying to get local rights in terms of the baseball, football, baseball, hockey, and NBA. So I think Amazon versus ESPN is kind of like our emerging matchup in terms of in the sports media game.
Was ESPN going to buy NFL Network?
I mean, they've had talks, but right now those are stalled. Now, could they restart again? It's possible. The NFL has tried to sell NFL media for a long time, and they never do it. The NFL is used to being in every negotiation where it's like, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. That's why it didn't really work out with Apple and Sunday Ticket, because Apple's the same way. They're used to just telling people what to do, and everyone has to say yes. And so right now it's stalled, not happening at the moment. Could it happen eventually? It's still, I think, possible, but maybe not probable at this point.
Good stuff. Great to talk to you. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Dan.
Andrew Marchand, the Athletic senior sports media columnist.